I'm Josh from We Are Change Victoria, and we were here today to talk to the people from StopSmartMeters.ca, StopSmartMetersBC.ca, and CitizensForSafeTechnology.org. They were delivering some shocking new research that states that the smart meters may not be as safe as our provincial health officer, Dr. Perry Kendall, has been assuming. So hopefully he'll take the information and we'll report back when we get more information.
I'd like to deliver one copy of each of these to Dr. Perry Kendall, the Provincial Health Officer. Yep. My name is Steve Soto. I am the president of the StopSmartMeters.ca Society. And the purpose of this conference today is to deliver two documents that have recently been published that cast serious doubts on the safety of the radiation from smart meters. I have copies of my statement as well as copies of those documents that are available if you want one, hard copies. Once we've done my statement, there'll be two other statements read out by colleagues of mine within the Coalition for Stop Smart Meters. And again, they have copies of those as well. Once we've done those, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. And following the questions, we will be delivering the two documents to the Ministry of Health for Dr. Kendall for his reference. I would point out that Dr. Kendall and a representative from BC Hydro were invited to be here today but have declined. So anyway, my statement. Two new documents recently published cast serious doubts on the oft-repeated assertions of our provincial health officer and BC Hydro that there are no health risks associated with the electromagnetic radiation emitted by smart meters. The first of these documents is a letter drafted by the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, an international organization based in Wichita, Kansas. In their letter addressed to the California Public Utilities Commission, dated January the 19th of this year, the board of the Academy called for, and I quote, an immediate moratorium on smart meter installation until these serious public health issues are resolved. Continuing with their installation would be extremely irresponsible, end quote. They also urged the commissioners of the California Public Utilities Commission to provide immediate relief for those requesting it and the restoration of the old analog meters. These are strong words from a group of medical professionals who are dedicated to the research and treatment of environmentally induced illnesses such as electrohypersensitivity. The second document is a report that was submitted to the Board of Supervisors of the County of Santa Cruz in California on January 24th of this year. This document includes a memorandum by the County Public Health Officer entitled Health Risks Associated with Smart Meters. The conclusions of this medical officer's report fly in the face of claims made by Dr. Kendall that there is no evidence to suggest that the radiation from smart meters is harmful. Among a list of damning observations, the report states, and I quote, meeting the current FCC guidelines only assures that one should not have heat damage from smart meter exposure. It says nothing about safety from the risks of many chronic diseases that the public is most concerned about, such as cancer, miscarriage, birth defects, semen quality, autoimmune disease, etc. Therefore, when it comes to non-thermal effects of radiofrequency radiation, FCC guidelines are irrelevant and cannot be used for any claim of smart meter safety unless heat damage is involved. End quote. The FCC guidelines referred to in that report, for all intents and purposes, are identical to Health Canada's Safety Code 6, and it behooves me to point out that our provincial health officer and BC Hydro are basing their entire defense of smart meter safety on the guidelines set out in Safety Code 6. So if anyone claims that there are no scientific studies showing harm, they are either lying or, at best, deliberately ignoring the evidence. Consequently, I would like to pose some questions to Dr. Kendall. Firstly, how long are you going to continue sticking your head in the sand in an attempt to ignore the growing, serious, and highly credible body of evidence that clearly indicates that the radiation from smart meters is potentially harmful? Secondly, When are you going to live up to your sworn responsibility as a doctor to act in the best interest of the public that you are supposed to be protecting from harm? And lastly, when will you finally acknowledge that you, the official guardian of public safety in the province, need to apply the precautionary principle rather than dance to the tune of your ministerial masters? By the way, as I mentioned earlier, both Dr. Perry Kendall and BC Hydro's Vancouver Island spokesperson, Ted Olnick, were invited to attend this conference but have failed to show up. So, contrary to what BC Hydro would have us believe, every opinion poll that I have seen shows that the public are, on average, 80% against this program. But once again, hard on the heels of the ill-conceived and much-hated HST fiasco, we, the people of British Columbia, are being treated with complete disdain by our government and by the government agencies that are supposed to serve and protect us. So, in closing, I want to call on everyone in the province to take action. Protect your old analog meter and write to or call BC Hydro telling them that you do not give them consent to install these dangerous and illegitimate devices on your homes and businesses. BC Hydro has clearly stated publicly that there will be no retribution against people who refuse consent. So you do not need to fear being arbitrarily cut off or pressurized into accepting smart meters. And finally, add your name to the growing list of people on the website at stopsmartmeters.ca in order to send a clear message that you are willing to protect your health, your safety, and the democracy of our province.
What is your primary concern? What's your biggest concern about smart meters?
But that's actually a very long list. Health is just one issue and the focus of this conference. We have issues around the cost of the program, against privacy, invasion of privacy, data security, human rights and health issues. So actually there's numerous things that we should be concerned about. And BC Hydro, in the information that they're giving out in their $8 million advertising campaign, are providing highly exaggerated, inaccurate, and in some cases categorically untrue statements.
My name is Karen Weiss, and I'm the Victoria Regional Representative for Citizens for Safe Technology. Okay. Citizens for Safe Technology Society has launched a human rights action against BC Hydro. This human rights action requests the accommodation of individuals refusing a wireless smart meter for health reasons. The complainants are persons with a variety of health concerns, ranging from cancer to heart problems, from seizures to electrosensitivity. These BC citizens have medical letters from their doctors requesting BC Hydro accommodate their health conditions by allowing an analog meter to remain on their homes. As has already been outlined here by Steve Soto of StopSmartMeters.ca, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine officially requested an immediate moratorium on the installation of wireless smart meters based on a scientific assessment of the current medical literature. Their letter states, chronic exposure to wireless radiofrequency radiation is a preventable environmental hazard that is sufficiently well documented to warrant immediate preventative public health action. The AAEM confirms that public health standards are inadequate and obsolete and cannot be used to protect the public from chronic, low-intensity microwave radiation exposures. These exposures raise credible questions about genetic and cellular effects, male fertility, blood-brain barrier damage, and increase in certain types of cancers. The emissions given off by wireless smart meters have been classified by the World Health Organization International Research on Cancer as a possible human carcinogen. Every person in BC has the right to refuse a wireless smart meter being forced upon them without their consent, as guaranteed by our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Cindy Vashore of BC Hydro was recently quoted as saying that quality of life depends on electricity. We would argue that quality of life depends, first and foremost, on a free society that respects the democratic rights of each citizen. Every person in BC, we wish to bring special attention to the concerns many parents have for their children regarding this involuntary wireless exposure. The AAEM warned that children are at heightened risk for altered brain development and impaired learning and behavior from microwave radio frequency. Citizens for Safe Technology agrees with the AAEM that physicians and medical experts have an obligation to urge precaution when sufficient scientific and medical evidence suggests risks to health. These risks may negatively impact the health of vulnerable individuals and groups and can potentially affect large populations, as is the case with BC Hydro's wireless smart meter program. We request that these practitioners uphold the professional ethical standards that they agreed to when taking the Hippocratic Oath. CST calls upon physicians and medical experts in BC to support public health and the human rights action by recommending an immediate moratorium on wireless smart meter installation until these serious public health issues are resolved. We ask that they support patients seeking relief from involuntary enforced exposure to wireless smart meter emissions within their homes by requesting that BC Hydro accommodate them with an analog meter without additional cost or penalty. Concerned British Columbians should visit our website, citizensforsafetechnology.org, where they will find the doctor's information package. Thank you.
I'll begin. For more than a year, citizens from across British Columbia, as well as our grassroots organization, the Coalition to Stop Smart Meters, have been sending letters and petitions to Premier Christy Clark and Energy Minister Rich Coleman requesting a halt to the mandated wireless smart meter program. Many have asked for accommodation for health reasons to be allowed to keep their current analog meters as the only safe and secure option. All requests have been ignored. Now, 31 municipal governments and the Union of BC Municipalities have asked for a moratorium or an opt-out choice due to the strong opposition to smart meters by residents in their communities. These councils have also been ignored. You may ask why Premier Christy Clark and Rich Coleman are not concerned about health reports of potential health impacts. The answer? Because the one person in the province who has the responsibility for overseeing the public's health appears to be ignoring scientific evidence of harm from microwave radio frequency radiation, assuring BC residents that microwave radiation from smart meters is safe no matter what your age, no matter what your size, or how many meters you are exposed to at once, no matter if you depend on sensitive medical equipment, and no matter what your health status. His decision to move ahead without question will affect all British Columbians, many of them children. Dr. Kendall, our provincial health officer, has received major studies and reports from credible sources about the dangers of microwave radiation. However, instead of warning the public about wireless smart meters, he continues to declare all is safe. While many independent scientists and other public health officials are calling for a reduction in radio frequency radiation exposures to protect public health. These independent experts hold the same position as the American Academy of Environmental Medicine and the public health officer from Santa Cruz, California, calling for a collective moratorium on the installation of wireless smart meters until further investigation, calling it an issue of highest importance. We believe that the recent World Health Organization reclassification of radio frequency radiation by 31 international cancer experts is important, and that all citizens of British Columbia must be given the right to refuse exposure to microwave radiation in their own homes and neighborhoods. These wireless emissions from smart meters are a possible human cancer risk, and the recommendation to the public from the World Health Organization is to take pragmatic measures to reduce exposure, not increase it substantially. DDT, lead, and chloroform are all to be carcinogens. Would we allow the government and BC Hydro to expose our families to these dangerous agents against our consent? Of course not, and this should be seen no differently. If the provincial medical officer, Dr. Perry Kendall, is not willing to act on our behalf, even after taking the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, then it is up to us to take matters into our own hands and demand protection for our families. On December 22nd, a legal complaint was filed against BC Hydro with the BC Utilities Commission, charging that they have exceeded the scope of the Clean Energy Act when they decided to install wireless smart meters across BC without any independent oversight or without any public input. This is simply not acceptable to most British Columbians. Consent to this constant radiation exposure permeating through our homes has never been granted. It is a potentially deadly and completely unnecessary pollution. If any Crown project is worthy of implementation, then allow due process to take place and respect our legal right to make decisions related to health, privacy, and security in our own homes. What we ask is reasonable and lawful. What we describe is democracy, nothing more and nothing less. We all have a vested interest in BC Hydro as a Crown corporation. And that is why we are here now urging all British Columbians to get involved. This is an essential service we all must use and depend upon. We know from past experience, action is taken by government only when enough voters collectively speak out. That time is now. Demand a stop to this wasteful spending of $1 billion or more of our hard-earned dollars, the erosion to our civil liberties, and the very real health threat to our families. Write to your MLA, your local government, to the BC Utilities Commission, and the media, expressing your concern with the smart meter program. Demand that you retain the right to keep our homes safe, private, and secure as we choose. Please go to stopsmartmetersbc.ca, also stopsmartmeters.ca, and citizensforsafetechnology.org for more information and to donate funds in support of our legal action. There is no time to wait. The time is now. Thank you.
So yeah, these meters, the new smart meters, are not Underwriter Lab certified or CSA certified. Were the old analog meters, were those certified?
As far as I know, they weren't. And because the BC Hydro is a utility, they are governed by a different legislation than the consumers are governed by. And therefore, they don't have to have CSA or UL approval for their devices. They simply have to meet a manufacturer's standard, and that is basically a self-regulated industry.
So citizens are not allowed to sell UL or CSA unapproved items. What gives BC Hydro the right to sell these potentially harmful, or not even sell, but foist these unapproved or unsafety certified devices on our private property?
Well, that's a really good question. And if you look at how utility companies act, they seem to think that they're exempt of a lot of different rules and regulations and laws. And the way BC Hydro is acting right now with the smart meter program and with their bullying tactics, they seem to think that they don't have to abide by rules and regulations. Now, when it comes to the meters themselves and for the safety of those meters, that is a topic of debate because you have two different things you should be considering. Number one is, does the meter actually work as claimed? Many of these meters don't. They're not accurate. They've had to take out thousands of these meters in other jurisdictions. But number two, it is the issue around the radiation from the meter. And the thing that I've come to learn over the years is we have two different messages that we have to think about. Number one is what the Accenture and BC Hydro's public relations spin doctors tell you and what the meters can do. And then there's the actual capabilities of the technology based upon the specifications of the equipment. If you look at the specifications of this type of equipment, these meters can beam almost continuously if programmed so. There's nothing to restrict BC Hydro's programming of these meters to transmit more often There's nothing in the regulations to restrict what they do. So what the public should be concerned about is you should look at the maximum capabilities, the maximum exposure possibilities, and assume that that's what you're going to be exposed to, because there are no limitations on hydro as how they use the equipment.
These equipment, these smart meters, do they contain any sort of technology that could be used as surveillance measures against citizens of British Columbia?
Well, surveillance in the sense that I don't think there's any video cameras on them. But as for actual monitoring behavior, this equipment has the capabilities to monitor usage within the house by the second. So if you think, well, is that a big deal or not? Well, when you go home tonight, walk in your door and see how long before you use some electrical equipment. Your life is documented by the use of your electrical equipment in your house, by the minute. You can monitor what television shows you're using. There's a signature, electronic signature that will happen that can show what channels you're watching, whether you're using the internet or not, what appliances you're using. So there's a lot of consumer information that's very, very, very valuable for some people to have as to when and how equipment is used. Also, that information is stored permanently by a third party that is not under any governmental regulations whatsoever. And that information can be called up 20 years from now, and they could say on the night of January 27th, 2012, you were home, we have the data. So if you think about it, the capabilities of how the technology is used is should be the most troublesome thing. But we have to be very concerned with how this data is used. 1970 Triumph. So anyway, I think that's the most important thing to remember when they're with hydro. They have a massive public relations department. Accenture, the people that took over hydro, and Accenture, by the way, has a checkered past, and they were quite artfully divided from an organization by the name of Arthur Andersen and Associates. And I think you probably remember Arthur Andersen Associates. They were the brains behind the Enron scam. Now, what Accenture's actually really complained that we've mentioned them in the same sentence as Arthur Andersen Associates, because in fact they were legally separated from Arthur Andersen Associates before this scandal happened. However, one could be excused for being confused about what the relationship was, is because Accenture came to British Columbia, took over BC Hydro, and is employing the same bookkeeping methods that they used to take down the Enron Corporation. So the thing is that, and this is well documented by other economists, that the type of bookkeeping they're using is very, very suspect, and it certainly doesn't show how far in the hole BC Hydro actually is right now with all their commitments to contracts and such. So Hydro's in big trouble, and I believe a good part of the reason is because of Accenture.
The companies that are recording the data for these smart meters, are they an American company, and would they be subject to the USA Patriot Act?
Very good point. We really don't know for sure, do we? But by the way, all data that enters the country into the United States is subject to the Patriot Act and the Homeland Security Act. It's all subject for viewing by some type of governmental agency in the United States of America. And when you start thinking about that, how secure is your information now when these guys are looking at it? And by the way, these guys have gotten hacked several times. So that information is not secure. And how do I feel about some pretty right-wing influences in the United States right now having access to this sort of data about my private life? It's really starting to really concern me. It's going outside the country, and there's no security there.
Yeah, regardless of right-wing or left-wing governments, foreign governments accessing data as sensitive as Canadians' electrical usage and the patterns that we generate with that is very alarming. So I'd like to thank you.
Pleasure, my man.
Thanks a lot.
Good work, guys.
Is it only through health concerns that people can refuse smart meters? What about the people that don't have any valid health issues that still would like to refuse the smart meter based on the infringement of their civil liberties, based on the the collection of data that these things are assumed to collect, or really just based on our fundamental freedoms that you're supposed to be allowed to say no, and if you can't say no to something, you're not free.
Absolutely. You make a very good point. There are many different reasons that British Columbians do not want one of these smart meters on their home. Today, in particular, we were addressing the health concerns, which definitely is the priority. However, it's not the only concern. People can refuse smart meters for any reason. That is their right to say no to something being placed on their home that they do not want. Of course, there's the concerns on privacy, that these new meters have the capability of recording and transmitting very detailed, granular information of your day-to-day ins and outs of your life. And the fact that it is wireless also poses a security risk. As we know, the biggest governments and institutions, banks, have all been hacked into. No one is safe. So when BC Hydro assures you of complete confidentiality, that's highly, a stretch. Many, I think, would say. Also, there's the risk of fire that hasn't really had a lot of attention here in BC. However, in California, if you look up fires related to smart meters, there are quite a few documented cases where fires have been initiated from the meter itself. So I would really encourage, another important point is for people to understand is that these meters are not UL or CSA certified. So really, safety is highly questionable with these meters, and given the experience had in California, people have a reason to be very concerned. There's also the cost. People in California, where these meters have been placed already, in Ontario, and even in BC, in some places that areas that have them already, are finding that their costs, simply with the change out of the meter, their rates have gone up. That is even before time of use billing has even come into play. And of course, BC Hydro will assure us that time of use billing is not in the cards. However, I really encourage British Columbians to look up the business plan of BC Hydro, and you will see within their own business plan, they spell out the time of use plan for these meters. So, it's been pointed out before, a lot of the information that's being given to the public is highly inaccurate. And because we all have a vested interest in our electricity, BC Hydro is our only provider. It is vital that people do their homework, find out the information for themselves, and they do have the right to say no. They can go to our website, stopsmartmetersbc.ca or citizensforsafetechnology.org, and we have all the printables there for them. All they got to do is take that initiative and put it on their meter and send that letter into BC Hydro.